What happens when America's biggest pop star walks onto a morning show expecting a friendly chat and instead gets blindsided by one of the most disrespectful interviews in television history? It only took 29 seconds for Lara Spencer to say something so outrageous that it would turn a simple Good Morning America segment into an explosive confrontation that no one saw coming. The studio lights were bright that morning. The Good Morning America set was buzzing with its usual energy. Taylor Swift walked onto the stage wearing a simple black blazer and jeans, smiling and waving to the audience. She looked relaxed. She looked happy. She had no idea what was about to happen. Lara Spencer sat across from her, flanked by her co-hosts, Michael Strawn and Robin Roberts. George Stephanopoulos was at the news desk nearby. The cameras started rolling. Everything seemed normal at first. Too normal. "Taylor, welcome back to Good Morning America," Lara said with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "We're so excited to have you here." "Thank you so much for having me," Taylor replied warmly. "I'm always happy to be here." "So," Lara continued, leaning forward slightly, "your new album just dropped and fans are going crazy over it. But I have to ask, when are you going to grow up and write about something other than your breakups?" The air in the studio seemed to freeze. Robin Roberts shifted uncomfortably in her seat. Michael Straw's smile faltered. Taylor's expression remained polite, but something flickered in her eyes. "I'm sorry, what?" Taylor asked, her voice still measured, but with an edge that wasn't there before. "Oh, come on," Lara said, waving her hand dismissively. "We all know your whole thing is just writing sad songs about guys who dumped you. Don't you think it's time to move on to more mature content?" Michael Strawn jumped in quickly, trying to redirect. "Taylor, I think what Lara means is—" "No, Michael, let me finish." Lara interrupted, not even looking at him. "Taylor, you're what, 30 years old, and you're still writing diary entries set to music. I mean, when do we get some real artistry from you?" Taylor sat up straighter. Her smile was completely gone now. "Real artistry," she repeated slowly. You know what I mean." Lara continued, seemingly oblivious to the tension building around her. "Something with substance, something that matters, not just another song about some guy who didn't text you back." Robin Roberts tried to intervene. "Lara, I don't think that's fair." "Robin, please." Lara cut her off. "I'm just saying what everyone's thinking. Taylor's been in this industry for how long now? 15 years? 20? She's still mining the same material over and over again." Taylor's jaw tightened when she spoke. Her voice was calm but ice-cold. "Lara, with all due respect, you clearly haven't listened to my music." "Oh, I've heard it." Lara shot back. "Everyone's heard it. It plays in every grocery store and shopping mall in America. You can't escape it." "Then you would know," Taylor said, her words deliberate and controlled, "that my last 3 albums have explored themes of folklore, amal, storytelling, personal growth, social commentary, and fictional narratives. But even if they were all about relationships, why would that make them less valid?" "Because it's repetitive," Lara said with a shrug. "It's boring. Your fans might eat it up, but serious music critics have been saying this for years." George Stephanopoulos looked like he wanted to crawl under his desk. Michael Strawn was shaking his head slowly. Robin Roberts had her hand over her mouth. "Serious music critics," Taylor repeated. And now there was steel in her voice. "You mean the same critics who have given my album some of the highest ratings of my career? The same critics who praised my songwriting and production?" "Well, there are always some who disagree," Lara said, smirking slightly. "But let's be honest, Taylor, your fan base is mostly teenage girls. That's not exactly the demographic that defines musical excellence." That was it. That was the moment everything changed. Taylor stood up slowly, carefully removing her microphone. The entire studio went silent. You could have heard a pin drop. "I'm sorry," Taylor said, her voice shaking slightly, not with fear, but with controlled anger. "Did you just dismiss teenage girls as if their opinions don't matter?" Lara blinked, seeming to realize for the first time that she might have gone too far. "I didn't mean no. Please finish your thought." Taylor interrupted. "You were saying that because my fans are mostly young women, their taste in music is somehow less important. Is that right, Taylor?" "That's not what I said." Lara tried to backtrack. "That's exactly what you said." Taylor countered. "You just sat there and insulted not only my work, but millions of young women who support me. Women who see themselves in my music. Women who have every right to decide what matters to them. Robin Roberts spoke up, her voice firm. Taylor's absolutely right, Laura. That was completely out of line. Thank you, Robin, Taylor said, her eyes never leaving Laura. I've been in this industry long enough to know when someone is trying to tear me down to make themselves feel important, and I'm not going to sit here and let it happen on national television. Lara's face was turning red. Now, wait just a minute. I'm a host on this show, and you're a guest. You don't get to speak to me like that. A host who clearly didn't prepare for this interview, Taylor shot back. A host who thought it would be fun to ambush me with insults instead of asking actual questions about my work. Michael Strawn finally found his voice. Ladies, let's all just take a breath here. No, Michael, Taylor said, but her tone softened when she looked at him. I appreciate you trying to keep the peace, but I'm not going to take a breath and pretend this is okay. It's not okay. Lara stood up now, too. Her face flushed with anger and embarrassment. You know what? Maybe if you could take some criticism, you wouldn't be so sensitive. Criticism. Taylor's voice rose for the first time. You didn't offer criticism. You offered insults. There's a difference. Criticism would be discussing specific aspects of my music with thoughtful analysis. What you did was mock me and my fans. I think you're overreacting, Laura said, crossing her arms. I think you're underestimating how disrespectful you've been, Taylor countered. And I'm done with this conversation. She turned to look at Robin, Michael, and George. I'm so sorry to you three and to everyone else on this show who has always treated me with respect, but I can't continue this interview. Taylor, we completely understand, Robin said quickly, standing up herself. We're sorry this happened. Don't apologize for her behavior, Taylor said gently. That's not your responsibility. Lara threw her hands up. This is ridiculous. You're really going to walk off the show because I asked you some tough questions. Taylor turned back to her, and when she spoke, her voice was quiet but powerful. You didn't ask tough questions, Laura. You belittled me. You belittled my fans. And you clearly thought I would just sit here and take it because that's what good guests do, right? Smile and nod while hosts say whatever they want. I have every right to ask whatever questions I want. Laura insisted. This is my show. Actually, George Stephanopoulos spoke up for the first time, his voice measured. This is Good Morning America. It's not your show, Laura. And I think we all need to acknowledge that this interview went off the rails. Lara spun to look at George, her mouth open in shock. Are you seriously taking her side? I'm taking the side of professionalism, George replied calmly. And what happened here wasn't professional. The audience, which had been silent this whole time, started murmuring. Some people were nodding in agreement. Others looked uncomfortable. The producers in the control room were probably panicking. Taylor picked up her purse from beside her chair. I came here to talk about my music, my tour, my fans, and the things I care about. I didn't come here to be attacked, and I won't stay somewhere where I'm not respected. Taylor, please, Michael said, standing up and moving toward her. We really are sorry. Can we start over? Maybe without. He glanced at Lara and left the sentence unfinished. Taylor gave him a sad smile. Michael, you're a good person. But I can't stay. Not after this. It wouldn't be right to pretend everything's fine when it's not. You're being a diva, Lara said suddenly, her voice sharp. You know that, right? You're acting like a spoiled celebrity who can't handle a little pushback. The gasps from the audience were audible now. Robin Roberts looked horrified. Michael Strawn closed his eyes like he couldn't believe what he was hearing. Taylor stopped walking and turned around one more time. When she spoke, her voice was deadly calm. A diva would throw a tantrum. A diva would yell and scream and make a scene. I'm simply removing myself from a situation where I'm being disrespected. That's called having self-respect. Maybe you should try it sometime. How dare you? Lara sputtered. How dare I? Taylor's eyebrows shot up. How dare you? You invited me here. You asked me to give up my time to come on your show, and then you used that platform to try to humiliate me. And that's what takes audacity, Lara, not me standing up for myself. Robin Roberts walked over to Taylor and put a gentle hand on her arm. You're absolutely right to feel this way, and I'm mortified that this happened on our show. Thank you, Robin, Taylor said, her voice softer now. That means a lot coming from you. Lara let out a bitter laugh. Of course, you're all defending her. God forbid anyone say anything negative about precious Taylor Swift. Lara, stop, George said firmly from his desk. Just stop talking. But Lara couldn't stop. It was like watching a car crash in slow motion. This is exactly what's wrong with celebrity culture. Everyone has to walk on eggshells around these people. We can't ask real questions. We can't challenge them. We just have to worship them and tell them how amazing they are. Taylor shook her head slowly. You really don't get it, do you? This isn't about worship or eggshells. This is about basic respect, something you clearly don't understand. Oh, I understand respect, Lara fired back. I just don't think you've earned the level of reverence your fans give you. The audience erupted. Some people were booing. Others were shouting. The energy in the studio had shifted completely. What started as a morning talk show had turned into something else entirely. Michael Strawn stepped between Taylor and Lara, holding up his hands. Okay, that's enough. Lara, you need to calm down. Taylor, I don't blame you one bit for wanting to leave. I am calm, Lara insisted, but her voice was shaking. I'm perfectly calm. She's the one who's overreacting to a simple interview. Simple interview. Robin's voice cut through the chaos. Lara, you insulted her. Her music and her fans multiple times. That's not an interview. That's an attack. I was doing my job, Lara said defensively. No, Taylor said, and everyone turned to look at her. Your job is to inform and entertain your audience. Your job is to ask thoughtful questions and create interesting conversations. Your job is not to tear down your guests to make yourself feel superior. I don't need to tear anyone down to feel superior, Lara snapped. Then why did you? Taylor asked simply, why did you spend this entire interview trying to make me feel small? What did you gain from that? Lara opened her mouth, but no words came out. For the first time since the interview started, she seemed at a loss. Taylor didn't wait for an answer. She turned to the audience and gave them a small wave. Thank you all for being here. I'm sorry you had to witness this. Several audience members called out to her. We love you, Taylor. You did nothing wrong. Don't let her get to you. Taylor smiled, a real smile this time, and blew them a kiss. Then she looked at Robin, Michael, and George one more time. Say, thank you for your kindness. I hope we can do this again under better circumstances. Anytime, Michael said warmly. You're always welcome here. Some of us, anyway, Robin added, shooting a pointed look at Lara. Taylor nodded and started walking toward the exit. The cameras followed her every step. She held her head high, her shoulders back, moving with grace and dignity, even in the middle of this disaster. Don't you walk away from me, Lara called out suddenly. I'm not finished talking to you. Taylor paused but didn't turn around. Actually, Lara, you are finished. This interview is over. I'm leaving and there's nothing you can do about it. You're going to regret this, Lara said. And the threat in her voice was clear. Walking off my show like this, people will talk about it. Taylor turned her head slightly, just enough to make eye contact. Let them talk. At least they'll be talking about how I stood up for myself instead of how I sat there and took your abuse. I know which story I'd rather be part of. And with that, she walked through the studio doors and was gone. The set erupted into chaos. Producers were running around. Cameras didn't know where to point. The audience was buzzing with conversation. Lara stood frozen, her face a mixture of anger, embarrassment, and something that might have been regret. Robin Roberts removed her microphone and stood up. I need a break, she announced to no one in particular and walked off set. Michel Strawn followed her, shaking his head in disbelief. George Stephanopoulos looked directly into the camera. We'll be right back after this, he said, his voice professional but strained. Clearly, we have some things to sort out here. The camera cut to commercial, but the damage was done. Lara finally sat back down in her chair, alone on the couch where just minutes ago she'd been sitting with her co-hosts. She looked at the empty chair where Taylor had been. The studio felt different now, colder, more hostile. A producer approached her, clipboard in hand, face tight with stress. "Lara, we need to talk." "Not now," Laura said quietly. "Yes, now," the producer insisted. "Do you have any idea what just happened?" That was Taylor Swift. She's one of the biggest stars in the world. "And then I know what I did," Laura interrupted, her voice small. "Do you?" The producer pressed. "Because from where I was standing, you just created a public relations nightmare for this entire show." Lara didn't respond. She couldn't because deep down she knew the producer was right. The audience was still talking among themselves, sharing their reactions, pulling out their phones. In the age of social media, this moment would be everywhere within minutes. Everyone would see what happened. Everyone would have an opinion. And Lara Spencer would be at the center of it all, but not in the way she'd wanted. When the cameras came back on after commercial, Robin and Michael had returned to the set, but they looked different, stiff, uncomfortable. The easy chemistry that usually characterized Good Morning America was completely gone. George spoke first. "We want to acknowledge what just happened here. Our guest, Taylor Swift, left the show during what became a very contentious interview. We apologize to Taylor and to our viewers for how that segment unfolded." Lara sat silently, her face pale. "We pride ourselves on creating a welcoming environment for all our guests," Robin added, her voice firm. "And we fell short of that today. We're sorry." Michael nodded in agreement. "We have tremendous respect for Taylor Swift as an artist and as a person, and she deserved better than what she got here this morning." Laura finally spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "I was just trying to ask challenging questions." Robin turned to look at her, and the disappointment in her eyes was evident. "There's a difference between challenging and cruel, Lara. You crossed a line." The rest of the show continued, but the energy never recovered. Every segment felt forced. Every smile felt fake. The viewers at home could feel it. The audience in the studio could feel it. Everyone knew something had fundamentally changed. Taylor Swift's exit from Good Morning America wasn't just a celebrity walking off a talk show. It was a statement. It was a moment where someone said enough is enough. Where someone chose dignity over compliance. Where someone showed that respect is not optional, no matter who you are or what platform you're on. And Lara Spencer, who thought she could bully a guest into submission, learned a hard lesson about consequences, about how treating people badly in front of millions of viewers doesn't make you look tough or edgy. It makes you look small. The thing about moments like these is they reveal character. They show who people really are when the pressure is on. And in this case, the contrast couldn't have been clearer. Taylor Swift walked out with grace, strength, and self-respect intact. She didn't yell. She didn't curse. She didn't stoop to Lara's level where she simply stated her boundaries and left. That's real power. Lara, on the other hand, revealed something else entirely. She revealed someone so insecure in her own position that she felt the need to diminish someone else. Someone so caught up in performing toughness that she forgot about basic human decency. Someone who confused cruelty with journalism. As the show finally came to an end, the co-hosts said their goodbyes to the camera with none of their usual warmth. The credits rolled. The audience filed out, still buzzing about what they'd witnessed. Backstage, Taylor Swift was probably long gone, already on her way to wherever she needed to be next. But her presence still lingered in that studio. Her words still echoed in the minds of everyone who'd been there. "I won't stay somewhere where I'm not respected." 7 words that summed up everything. 7 words that should be simple and obvious, but somehow still need to be said. 7 words that resonated with everyone who's ever been in a situation where they were treated poorly and wished they'd had the courage to walk away. Lara Spencer started that morning thinking she was going to have a fun interview with a pop star, maybe get some clicks with some controversial questions, maybe shake things up a little and show everyone how tough she could be. Instead, she ended it having learned one of the most important lessons in broadcasting, maybe in life. You can't build yourself up by tearing others down. You can't earn respect by showing disrespect. And you can't expect people to sit quietly while you insult them, no matter how famous you are or what platform you're on. The interview that was supposed to last 20 minutes ended in chaos in less than half that time. But the impact would last much longer. The conversations it sparked, the think pieces it would generate, the discussions about respect and professionalism in media, all of that was just beginning. Because sometimes it takes a dramatic moment to make. People pay attention. Sometimes it takes someone walking out to make everyone else wake up and realize that what they're watching isn't entertainment. It's mistreatment. And maybe, just maybe, that's why Taylor Swift's exit from Good Morning America mattered so much. Not because a celebrity got angry and left, but because someone stood up and said, "This isn't okay." Someone drew a line. Someone showed that there are consequences for treating people badly. Even on live television, maybe especially on live television, the cameras eventually shut off. The lights dimmed, the studio emptied, but the moment lived on, captured forever. A reminder that respect isn't given, it's required, and those who forget that do so at their own peril. In the hallway outside the studio, Taylor Swift stopped for a moment. Her team surrounded her immediately, but she held up a hand. "I'm okay," she said quietly. "I just need a minute." One of her publicists looked worried. "That was incredible. You handled that perfectly." Taylor shook her head. "I shouldn't have had to handle it at all. Nobody should have to defend themselves like that on live television." Back inside the studio, the aftermath continued to unfold. Producers huddled in corners, phones pressed to their ears. The audience members who remained were still processing what they'd witnessed. Some were recording videos on their phones, capturing their reactions. Others were texting friends and family, trying to describe what had just happened. An intern approached the stage hesitantly. Do we still have the next segment planned?" Or nobody seemed to have an answer. Lara remained in her chair, watching as the crew scrambled around her. For the first time all morning, she looked uncertain. Small. The confidence that had carried her through the interview had completely evaporated. Robin Roberts returned to the set briefly, but she didn't sit down. Instead, she stood behind the couch, arms crossed. "Lara, I think you owe all of us an explanation. What were you thinking?" "I was trying to ask real questions," Lara said, but her voice lacked conviction. Questions that other interviewers are afraid to ask. "There's a difference between asking hard questions and being cruel," Michael Strawn said, rejoining them. "You know that, right?" Laura looked down at her hands. She just seemed so perfect, so untouchable. "I thought maybe if I pushed back a little, we'd get something authentic." "You got something authentic," George said from his desk. "You got an authentic display of someone standing up for themselves when they're being mistreated. Is that what you wanted?" The silence that followed answered the question. Meanwhile, in another part of the building, network executives were already in emergency meetings. Phone lines were lighting up. Social media was exploding. The video clips were spreading faster than anyone could have predicted. One executive stared at his computer screen, watching the clip play over and over, and Taylor standing up, removing her microphone, the look on her face, the power in her voice, the grace with which she walked away. "This is either going to destroy us or make us confront some serious issues," he muttered to his colleague. "Or both," the colleague replied. Back on set, the show was trying to continue, but it was like performing surgery on a patient who had already flatlined. Every segment felt hollow. Every smile felt forced. The hosts were going through the motions, but their hearts weren't in it. During a commercial break, Robin pulled Lara aside. "You need to think very carefully about what happens next. This isn't going away. You can't just move on like nothing happened." "What do you want me to do?" Lara asked. And there was a hint of defensiveness in her voice. "Gravel, apologize." "I want you to understand what you did wrong," Robin said firmly. "Because right now, I'm not sure you do." Michael joined them, his expression serious. "Lara, I've known you for years. I've never seen you treat a guest like that. What happened?" Lara opened her mouth to respond, then closed it again. What could she say? That she'd wanted to be provocative? That she'd thought it would make for good television? That somewhere along the way, she'd confused controversy with content? "I don't know," she finally admitted. And for the first time, she sounded genuinely lost. The truth was starting to sink in, not just for Lara, but for everyone involved. This wasn't just an awkward interview that would be forgotten by tomorrow. This was a defining moment. The kind of moment that people would remember. The kind of moment that would be studied in journalism classes as an example of what not to do. In her dressing room, Taylor Swift sat quietly, processing everything that had happened. Her phone was blowing up with messages of support. Fellow artists, friends, fans who had somehow already seen clips of the interview, everyone telling her she did the right thing, but she didn't feel triumphant. She felt sad. Sad that it had come to that. Sad that she'd had to walk away. Sad that in 2026, Women were still being dismissed and belittled for doing work that millions of people loved. "You okay?" her manager asked gently. Taylor nodded. "Yeah, I'm okay. I just wish it hadn't happened at all." "You were amazing in there," her manager said. "The way you stood up for yourself and for your fans, for young women everywhere, that mattered." "I hope so," Taylor said quietly. "I really hope so." As the day wore on, the story continued to grow. News outlets picked it up. Entertainment shows scrambled to cover it. Social media was divided, but the overwhelming majority supported Taylor's decision to leave. The phrase, "I won't stay somewhere where I'm not respected," became a rallying cry. It resonated with people who had been in similar situations, who had wanted to stand up for themselves, but didn't know how. Lara Spencer went home that night to an empty apartment. She sat on her couch, staring at nothing. Her phone kept buzzing with notifications, but she couldn't bring herself to look at them. She kept replaying the interview in her mind. The look on Taylor's face when she stood up. The disappointment in Robin's eyes. The way Michael had shaken his head. She'd thought she was being bold, challenging, unafraid to ask tough questions. But watching it back in her memory, she could see it differently now. She could see the cruelty, the dismissiveness. The realization made her feel sick. 29 seconds. That's all it took for Lara Spencer to say. Something so offensive that it set off a chain reaction she couldn't control. 29 seconds to go from routine interview to complete disaster. 29 seconds to show the world exactly who she was and exactly who Taylor Swift was in response. And in the end, only one of them walked out of that studio with their dignity intact. But perhaps more importantly, only one of them had shown the courage to draw a line. To say enough is enough, to demonstrate that respect isn't negotiable, no matter the circumstances. And that lesson would echo far beyond the walls of that television studio, reaching people who needed to hear it most.